Tiga.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. We are from Group 5. We'll present the monitor model by Krashen. But first, let us introduce ourselves.
My name is Ayu Wandira.
My name is Mochammad Adnan Syaifullah.
Okay, my name Dwi Rizky Tektonia.
And my name is Sumayyah.
And my name is Parti Fergit.
Okay, and the first material, we will present monitor model by Stephen Krashen, 1978. First, acquisition learning hypothesis. Second, monitor hypothesis, and the third, natural order hypothesis. Fourth, input hypothesis, and the last, effective filter hypothesis. And the first material will be presented by Ayu. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the time. Acquisition learning hypothesis. Language acquisition is different from language learning, and language acquisition is the only way competence in second language can develop. The acquisition learning hypothesis claims that there is a strict separation between acquisition and learning. Acquisition is subconscious and involves the innate language acquisition device, which accounts for children's first language. The example of acquired system: 1, needs natural communication in target language. 2, informal situation. 3, depends on attitude. 4, uses grammatical feel. And the next is learning. Learning is conscious and is exemplified by the second language learning, which takes place in many classroom contexts. An example of learn system is 1, formal situation. 2, depends on aptitude. 3, uses grammatical rules. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you, and will be continued by Adnan.
Okay, next is monitor hypothesis. Next. The monitor hypothesis asserts that a learner's learned system acts as a monitor to what they are producing. So, in other words, while only the acquired system is able to produce spontaneous speech, the learned system is used to check what is being spoken. Next. So before the learner produces an utterance, they internally scan it for errors and uses the learning system to make corrections. Next is three conditions to use the monitor hypothesis. The first one is the acquirer or learner must know the rule. It means that this is a very difficult condition to meet because it means that the speaker must have had explicit instruction on the language form that he or she is trying to produce. The second one is the acquirer or learner must focus on correctness. So he or she must be thinking about form, and it's difficult to focus on meaning and form at the same time. The third one is the acquirer or learner must have time to use the monitor. Using the monitor requires the speaker to slow down and focus on form. Next. Three types of users. The first one is monitor over users. The second one is monitor under users. And the last one is optimal monitor users. So the next presentation will be presenting by Kiki.
Okay. And the third, the natural order hypothesis. Next. The natural order hypothesis is based on research findings, Julie and Bird, 1974, Fatman, 1975, Makino, 1980, cited in Krashen, 1987, which suggested that the acquisition of grammatical structures follows a natural order which is predictable. Krashen said that the acquisition of language through a natural sequence. Some language rules are obtained before other language rules. Research conducted by Brown, cited on Krashen, 1982, on the acquisition of English as a first language in children shows that children tend to acquire certain grammatical morphemes or word function compared to others. For example, progressive word forming plus ing verb in children, like he is playing baseball or he is running, and the plural form marker addition of s in 2 dogs, 3 books is the morpheme form that is obtained first, while the third person marker addition of s ending to the verb in he lives in New York, and possessive form addition of s to the subject, such as John's hat, Ayu's bag, is required later after 6 months to a year later. Although the research conducted by Brown is based on the acquisition process in the first language, according to Julie and Bird, cited in Krashen, 1982, the acquisition of grammatical morphemes in learners of English as a second language also shows the existence of natural speech. This natural order hypothesis has been criticized among the things because not all second language learners adopt to the same sequence in their target language acquisition. McLaughlin, 1987, in Zafar, 2009. In addition, Krashen's natural order hypothesis is only based on English morphemes. Cass and Selinker, 1994, McLaughlin, 1987, in Zafar, 2009. In relation to language teaching in the classroom, teachers should not base language teaching on grammatical sequences. Even Krashen, 1982, suggested not to base the syllabus in grammatical orders as Brown's research result. First, the possessive ing form, then the third person s. Okay, that's all for me. Next material will be presented by Sumayyah.
Well, thank you, Dwi Rizky sister. So the fourth Stephen Krashen's monitor model is input hypothesis. Next, so what is input hypothesis? Input hypothesis is a comprehensible input or the messages that students must understand. So what kind of comprehensible input? So this kind of comprehensible input is a message in which students can understand is a must thing as the process of language acquisition itself. So what input must be put to the students? Input used in acquisition should slightly higher and above the student's level, which is called as I+1. And this input should not be lower or in the same level or much higher than students' level in order for students to be understood on the second language acquisition. E represent the learners into language, and the 1 is the next stage of language acquisition. And as the students have different levels of acquisition, the teacher itself, the teacher themselves must be considering the different and differentiate between one levels and other levels in order to put the correct and the most suitable input for the students to differentiate one students' input to other students' input. And how can the comprehensible input presented? So the comprehensible input can be presented by using pictures or gestures or recycling vocabulary or repetition and etc. or any kind of method that teacher know what is the most suitable for their students. If the input is understood, the learning process or the learning acquisition or the necessary grammar is automatically provided, and the students could get a good knowledge of the second language acquisition, or the second language acquisition process will be done in a good way, it's not perfect, it's like the best way of method that could be done by teacher for their students.
The next one is affective filter hypothesis. Next. Basically, the affective filter hypothesis explains that language cannot be learned if a learner is blocking the learning process. A learner can be mentally prepared to learn, or they might be hindering this process in some way. A learner can have a high affective filter or a low affective filter. The higher the filter, the more likely language learning will be impeded. The lower the filter, the more likely that language learning will take place. Next. So these are the factors that cause high affective filter. Stress, inconveniences, lack of motivation, and worried about making mistakes. How does this affect the AFL classroom? Often, most students feel depressed, afraid, anxious, or uncomfortable during the lesson, especially if they think of a situation that requires them to do a little bit of public speaking or talk to a group of people when called to class. Next. The fear of making mistakes or looking stupid can overwhelm students. This can even prevent students from speaking or participating in class activities. Ways that teachers can do lower the affective filter. Make sure students know each other. If the class is new, take the time to get to know each other so students can become friends. It is much easier to speak in front of friends than to strangers, and students will not feel ashamed to make mistakes. When students make mistakes, of course, correct them, but don't do it in an embracing way so that students feel like they are being made fun of.
Okay, I think that's all from us about monitor model by Krashen. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.